Welcome to Liner Notes. My name is David Bixler. Heads up that due to COVID-19, this interview is recorded remotely. It might not be the same quality as if recorded in a studio. After the Grammy-winning album Back to the Sunset and his pandemic sextet project Transparency, drummer and composer Dafnis Prieto was in search of something new. This journey brought him back to his roots, and he again began to compose songs with lyrics as he did in his youth. Collaborating with Brazilian vocalist Luciana Souza, he has created his latest project, Cantar. I am joined in this episode with both Luciana and Dafnis as they talk about the genesis and future of this unique project. Luciana, Dafnis, welcome to Liner Notes. Thank you for taking the time, and we're forming a triangle in the United States right here between Miami, LA, and New York, and thank God for the technology that allows this to happen. And from what I'm gathering, people have had busy lives already before we're meeting that, so I appreciate, life's crazy. But we're here to talk about and celebrate your new recording, Cantar. And Dafnis, since this is the 5th year of my podcast, and I've followed your different projects recently. The first one was the big band one, which I didn't interview you, but Joel Fromm was on, and you were in the midst of doing that project. And then you were on for your sextet recording Transparency, which was killing. And now, Cantar. All right. So I want to jump in with that, and I have a lot of questions, but maybe just start talking about how this came about, because this is a different thing for you.
Well, this is certainly very different from what I've done before in so many different levels and ways. But focusing specifically on what happened, at some point I wanted to actually have an album of songs that I've been gathering, but also we had a conversation with the executive producer that has been helping me out with some of other of my records, and he we had a conversation, and we talked about that album, and he said, well, I really enjoy Luciana. I say, well, yeah. And then I started just fantasizing about it and having the idea of in the back of my mind that Luciana would be the perfect person to do this for so many reasons, and I can mention all of those reasons just briefly like that, just because I've been following her from the distance. We never met before, and I follow her career and some of the records that she has done, and she have worked with a lot of musicians that I've worked with in other projects, etc. So we have somehow touch each other in different occasions through other people's and through others' experiences, and as I start developing the concept and idea in my head, I reach out to Luciana and I mentioned it to her that I want that I would love to do this collaboration with her, and she's to me a great singer, but I don't see Luciana only as a singer. To me, it's like a musician that sings. You know what I'm saying? Like is a musician by herself that uses the voice to express herself. So there is different kind of singers in that way, right? So and I was looking for someone that has those qualities, which is they are high qualities. They are not necessarily that you can find this, anywhere else or that easy. And also the possibility of the improvisation as well, which and also that she could sing in different languages.
Que envuelves con tu ser, brisa, dime tú que bailas
we doing in Cantar 3 different languages: Spanish, Portuguese, and English. And who could more perfectly be than Luciana Souza to do this album with me? And to me, in a nutshell, it was a dream come true, because she brought so much to the table in the working progress of it, as well as in the recording section, and you can see it in the result of the album. So
Luciana, let me ask you, Daphne said you hadn't met before. You probably know his music. You know him as a drummer, as a composer, but as a singing artist, someone who has set poetry to music, written your own music. Dafnis Prieto contacts you and says, "I'm writing songs." What are you thinking about what this is going to be? What's the lyric situation going to be?
Well, I have to say, David, I was curious at first. First of all, I have to just, put it back all the way to Daphnis, because I, like him, I had followed him. I knew, of course, his name. I knew his music. I had heard, I followed him already on whatever devices I have and things. He was a cat, like a very important voice, not just as a drummer, but as a composer and somebody who was calling people's attention in every way, as an artist, really. So I was very curious. And anytime I get an invitation, I usually think about it. I give it some good thought. But it also came at a time when, I'm locked in my house with my husband and my son and the cat. I hadn't left the house. I hadn't done any work except from, recordings for friends here and there. And so he comes in with a proposal, which is not just to sing on a record, which I've done many, many projects as a side singer with people from all over, from John Patitucci, Danilo Perez, Dave Binney, Maria Schneider. I mean, you name it, a who's who of jazz, really. They're all friends and people that I love. And Dafnis was not a friend, so somebody that I knew, but somebody that I admired. But he also came with he said, I'd like to do a collaboration. It was more than just singing. He said, I want us to write lyrics. I want you to be a part of this thing. And so that invitation is bigger than just, could you sing a song, lend your voice to this thing, is to really come in. And he was just so generous and gracious, and, he's a very good composer. So his music was very clear already from the beginning. So for me, it was really interesting. We had several meetings on Zoom through, months of conversations and a real dialogue. And it was just beautiful and interesting. And the music, the quality of the music and the diversity of the music, the richness of the music was what really hooked me. And the fact that I'm at home and I have this time now to be able to devote to this and get to know him. I think if we had shook hands, like, hey, let's go do this thing, and if it was a 3-day it would not have come out the way it did. He took a lot of attention. He pays a lot of attention to everything. He sees the macro thing and the micro thing, and he's able to travel between the two. I would call it at times controlling, but it's not in a bad way. I'm not using this word negatively. He has control over things, and that's a beautiful thing. He knows exactly what he wants, has a vision for it, and he wants us to be a part of it, and he gives you the space to be. And so for me, it was a real dream come true in a sense, that as a singer, to lend my voice, my artistry to a project with somebody with such a clear, beautiful statement, and it's very rich. It's very Cuban, and it's also universal in a way, because he through the use of these different languages and also instrumental music, he's able to reach out to so many different things and get into different spaces. So for me, it was really a joy, and I'm just delighted to listen back. We spent some time last night listening back to the music together, and it's just so beautiful. Everyone contributed such beautiful things to it, but it's really because Dafnis has such a clear vision.
There's great videos of, like, a lot of, I don't know if there's a video for every song, but I was checking some of them out on the website. But there's also a making of the project video, which is pretty cool. And in that, you say about Dafnis that he's not afraid to show his romantic or lyrical side. And several of the musicians, and maybe Eric, also say, this is the musician that we know. Who you are revealing yourself to be in this recording, but it really hasn't come out until you've been able to express this through, the words. And I'm just wondering, was there a point where you wanted to go to this step? Because you also say, I think it's in the liner notes, where you talk about you don't think of yourself as just a drummer or just a composer, but as an artist. And this is kind of the next step as you are on your aesthetic quest. And is this a culmination of life, career, or was there a point where you thought, this is what I need to do to express myself at the next level?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of it. And everything in life comes at a time. And sometimes you want to rush it and it doesn't happen, and sometimes you have to wait, and sometimes you don't know. It might be because you're not really completely mature about the idea, or the idea just is not the time, the right time to put it out. And I think the idea starts seducing me just for the fact that to give this to someone else and to collaborate with it, but me being the composer and at the same time not being the figure at front. In this case, I gave that place, basically to Luciana to shine through and to do her thing and to do the wonderful interpretation that she did of all of the songs, etc. And to me that was the key of the whole thing, right? It was this sharing with musicians that I admire, and then as a result I knew that something beautiful was going to come out of it. And that's to me the goal that I really had, and to create new connections. Luciana never recorded before with Martin or with Peter, I believe, or either with me, and vice versa as well. Me with other some of the other musicians. I think I was, as much as I was thinking about the result of it, I was very open in enjoying and really going from really learn and grow through the process of it. The first time that I do a collaboration per se on this level, and it was a wonderful experience, and that's
just to interject a little bit on the idea that the romantic thing, right? I don't think Dafnis was not romantic before. I think some of his melodies, if you listen to his music, of course there's a power. He's a great drummer, so he bashes on the drum or plays strong from the drums. But meaning that's the nature of the instrument. It has a range, it has a dynamic range, and he uses it all, right? And he has used that before. What I think that comes through now is that, does this music have more heart or something? It had heart, it had a lot of heart before. But because there is a human voice here, now, and beyond me, it's not about me, it's about the voice of the composer comes through a human voice, and it's a feminine voice, right? A female voice. So that opens the range of his music to another level that wasn't there before, only because that instrument wasn't included before. The instrument that reads lyrics, that tells stories, that has a different context. Just, I'm singing in a higher range than some of the instruments. Yeah, he had trumpets before, but the trumpet has a certain precision, and it doesn't have the humanity of a voice. It has a human playing it, but not in the way that a voice sings it. So that's what I mean when I say romantic. I mean, it's not just, a song about the heart and love. The love that he expresses in his music comes through lyrically, but also it comes through this humanity that now permeates all the music. There's me laughing on the record, there's me improvising, there's me singing a romantic song, there's me singing about a girl who's from the countryside. I mean, the range that he opened up is so big. And I would just want to say that it takes courage for a musician who's established and known for doing X, all of a sudden doing X plus Y plus Z plus K plus, everything. It just opens up. And I think that's what jazz is. That's what jazz has always been for me as a singer, is this place where it's unfinished, undone, uncharted, and we can take it in this new corner now. Let's go smell this new thing and see what can you make with this. And then so he's just going into a new corner, but it's still him. I don't think he's left. I mean, the music still has a lot of brain to it. It's very intellectual. It's very complex at times. Some of the stuff I said last night when we were listening to the music, I don't even know where the one is on one piece that I sang. I mean, I must have known because I came into the right place, but God help me, the complexity is there, but it's just so fluid for him. It really is a language. Yeah. So anyway, I really feel like it's still him, and it's just another side, but not a side that he was hiding. It's just coming through the human voice now, and then it shows in a beautiful way.
Yeah, just to add just one thing. Thank you for going a little bit deeper on that, Luciana. When I start into music, I didn't start with jazz. I start with songs. I learned all these kind of romantic songs like Roberto Carlos singing in Spanish and Jose Jose and the boleros from Cuba and all this songwriting. And that's how I got into music. It was actually one of the first things that I did was singing and playing the guitar Cuban songs.
Yeah.
So that's how I started into music. And that's kind of a circling, going back to that childhood and those memories. It had a deep connection within myself that I don't separate the music from the human aspect of it and from the experiences, and that it had a great impact in my childhood, and hence I became a musician. I became a musician first and then a drummer later as a choice of instruments. But to me, it was music in general, and especially songwriting.
But I think this experience that you described, Dafnis, is true for most musicians. We don't start with jazz and brain and intellect. We start with, somebody sings something to you, you repeat it. That's how language is transmitted. And somehow along the line, like when we go to school or something, something shifts. And the music becomes brain and less body, less feeling. For you, differently, because you play with 4 limbs, But for me, it becomes a head thing. Like, okay, it's from the head up, Yeah. And it's so interesting I think many of the musicians that I love have at some point had to deal with this idea of heart, of soul, of storytelling in this way, like connecting back to childhood, connecting back to the mother singing. Oh, my mother used to sing the song in the kitchen. You always, when a musician gets old enough, he or she, or they talk about going back to the songs.
The lullabies and
Exactly. Some people get to it faster. Some people, is more immediate. Some of us take a different detour and then come back. But I think at the heart of your music, it's always been there. It's never not been there. It's just not, now it's pretty obvious,
For sure. Well, one thing that struck me, and both of you can chime in because you're both bilingual. How did you choose what's in Spanish and what's in English? And then one of the songs you wrote in Spanish, and it looks like, Luciana, you translated to Portuguese.
I wanted to balance it out. I wanted to balance it to have as much balance between the 3 languages. I had one specific song which I didn't have a lyrics for. The original title was Había una vez in Spanish, and in English is Once Upon a Time, and it ended up being in Portuguese Houve tempo, because I gave it to Luciana, the melody and the song, and I say, well, great, this is a great starting point for the collaboration, because I'm writing, I already have the music, so just and Luciana came up with the lyrics of that song of Houve tempo. That's the one Portuguese, the first one. Then the other one, it was Amanecer Contigo, which is a song I wrote originally in Spanish. And but I had already a few other songs in Spanish, and I always envisioned the idea of having this bolero in Portuguese. Portuguese is a language to me, such a emotional, musical, and I don't know, sensual in so many different ways. And to have a bolero, which is classic Cuban kind of music in Portuguese, it was to me a great also example of a collaboration between us and between the cultures where that we are part of, that we come from. So those two songs were definitely determined to be in Portuguese. Then I had the other songs in Spanish, like Guajira en Sol, and then Brisa is another song in Spanish, and then what is the other song? I have it here. Sueño de Amor is another song in Spanish, and then we have the songs in English, like The Muse. That song originally was in English, and then we collaborate in these lyrics as well, because I had put a lyric and then Luciana came back with some feedback and some changes in the lyrics and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed that version of the lyric that she brought, and that's the lyrics that you hear now on the album. And then there is one song that is wordless, that is to the concert. That one is wordless through the process of it, because at the beginning I had that was going to be a song in English, but then somehow we didn't have a wordless song in the whole album, with voice, I mean, and at the same time we kind of went to a dead end with the lyrics of the song, and Luciana started feeling much more comfortable just doing a wordless.
Yeah,
and we end up just making that decision. Well, let's just do a wordless, because
so every once in a while we would butt heads, Dafnis and I, and in a great way, where I would come through a limitation, like, this is a limit that I have. I mean, I feel this is not my instrument. Like, right now I can't be comfortable doing this. So he had a lyric for the song called To the Concert, and it just didn't feel good to sing it. It felt like I don't see why I'm singing this way. It just doesn't feel good. So I was very honest with him, as I should be, by this point in the process, we were very honest with each other. So I said, listen, I think you should sing it, or I think if I do it, it should be wordless. So when we were together, let's try it. And I think we decided that it was going to be wordless, and I think it works out beautiful.
Yeah.
Because of the instrumentation, the orchestration that you did, how you distributed the melodies between the instruments. I think in the end, you could always go back and sing it or get somebody else, but I think that what we did came out really great.
I wanted to reinforce the orchestration is very powerful. Small details that has struck me as I've listened to the recording. Well, I want to go back to The Muse. You collaborated on the lyric on that one. Mm-hmm. The idea of a muse.
When she begins to tell me what she sees, I embrace her fully. Ideas fall through me, I want to share, just like an open window, revealing what is possible to me, the thoughts before the poem. When she comes in, I draw her close to me, just like a breath I need, you see, like earth and wind and water.
Inspiring an artist is been around forever, very personal to everybody. How do you collaborate on such a personal topic like this?
You want to answer, Lou?
Oh, I can just say from my part, he had already written a lyric. Dafnis, as I said, came very prepared and complete, his vision, his thoughts. So what I felt when I read his lyric is, here's a great idea. But for me, again, I just have to speak for myself. I read a lot of poetry. I'm not a great poet myself, but I know when there is good poetry, that I can tell you. So I looked at it and I said, well, there's cells and morsels and ideas here that are really beautiful, but it feels too literal. It was just speaking of a muse as the muse, like, this is how it happens. And it was just very literal. So I just liberated it a little bit. I think in the poetry, it was still very wordy. because the melody was very wordy, very syllabic. But I think what we got in the end is, I want to say, a better poem, just because it's literal, but not so literal like it was before. And I think that, I just really followed the lead. Dafnis had already created the environment for everything. And so my job, both as a singer, I feel, and of course somebody helping with lyrics or helping shape it, was to really just follow his leadership, follow his vision for this thing, and try to make it just feel less literal sometimes.
Definitely, when I heard back the new suggestions from Lou, I really understood what she meant. She probably saw the potential in the song, that I was in it, but I couldn't probably see that much at that moment, that relation or that level of poetry that could have been insert simultaneously there with the melody and the whole song. So that's why the beautiful thing about the collaboration is that two heads think more than once, and if both are leaning towards the same goal, which is the aesthetic and the music per se, then the final result is going to be always more powerful than the initial.
And to add to that, the fact that the musicians that Dafnis picked are so special. I mean, I want to start just with Matt a little bit, who is such a solid, generous bass player. I love bass players, and I married one, so I really, I have a thing about bass, and I think it's because the extreme voice and bass are usually at the complete opposites of the spectrum. But I love this idea that you have this really groovy. He can play anything, but he doesn't play everything all the time. So he played exactly the music. I mean, I'm sure it was very written and composed and whatnot, but also his feel is so right. And so he gives us this basic fundamental thing at the bottom there. And then Martin, who's so elegant and beautiful pianist, very poetic in his playing. And then Peter, who was a multi-instrumentalist and just a genius, really. I mean, I was just smitten with him, with his everything he can do, and also what he chooses when he plays a solo, how meaningful and melodic it is, where he takes cues from the melody and he just goes and makes this new conversation, this new path that takes you back to where you've been, but then points forward to a new direction. And then Dafnis, who's just so brilliant as this creator force, but also who played so perfectly. Like, when you hear him on the bolero, he's not overplaying at all. There's no, let me show you what I can do. He's done with that. He can do anything. We know that. So what can you do now when you can't do everything? What do you do? And I think everybody's so measured on the record, not in a tentative or hesitant way, but so well measured. Like, we just put in the right amounts. It's not too sweet, not too salty, not too, the perfect balance from everybody. And that's why the music is speaking to people. I have people calling me and telling me, oh my God, it's your record. It sounds great. No, it's not my record. It's somebody else's record. But it's great, because if they feel this way, they feel that I took possession of this music. But it could be Matt's record. It could be it could be Martin's record.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it. Like, most of the time you have a lead. This happens to me in previous recordings. Like, people have come to me. It's like, yeah, I know you're the leader, but you're the one that less solo takes in the whole album. You're writing for everyone else, and then you are, just almost like contemplating the beauty as it happens. And I see myself selfishless in that sense, because to me the goal is the music. I don't think about, and now I'm going to to do this thing, and I'm going to write for myself only to feature, and then everybody else is kind of doing accompaniment. I have the idea of the music first as a whole, and then I start deconstructing that idea of what it could be in realistic terms, right? But the idea, the umbrella of all, is the music per se, and whatever it needs to be, then that's what we do, and from a composition standpoint, that's the way I write and conceive the music.
I think people appreciate the generosity that is there. Yeah. Tell me about bringing Larry Klein in on the project.
that was also something that we discussed before time. And Larry is Luciana's husband and has worked in so many different projects with Luciana already, and he's a fantastic producer that we all know all his works, and all the things that he has done for many years. I thought he was the perfect person to collaborate also on this project, especially because he had experience and he had so much knowledge and so much advice and suggestions that can give to us throughout the process, and also in the post production of it, like the mixing and the mastering as well. And it just the experience itself, it was wonderful, because in the midst of it we get to know each other. We didn't really work before, so, and or even know each other in any way, so you're kind of working and getting to meet the person through the work at the same time, and the interaction of it. And I think that it was a great collaboration, and he really shined through in so many different levels when it comes to even the sound of the whole album as well. There's a lot of suggestions that he thought about, including keys here, and doing this song a little bit more this way, so that it has a contrast with other things that we're doing. And but also in the shape of the order of the album as well, in the songs. So it was a treat, and it was a great pleasure and honor for me to work with Larry Klein as well.
I have to say that it's always my pleasure to work with Larry Klein. But I have to add a few things. I think what Dafnis says is wonderful, but again, I have to say, Dafnis didn't need me, didn't need Larry. Really. I mean, he could put this music, you know what I mean? He can play this music and it's done and it's gorgeous. But what I love is that he took a chance also, and the courage, like this experimental kind of thing, okay, what if we try this? And that question, that posing a question as a musician for yourself. Okay, I know how to do this thing. This shit I know how to do really well. I do it all the time, right? But what if we brought in these people here and started a conversation and saw what happens? Because I'm the same creature. I get comfortable doing my thing, and it's great. It's happening. It's great. Nothing wrong here. But then what if I go with this guy now, or this woman, or this person, or bring this idea in? What will it do? And you could always say, no, it didn't work, right? We could have gotten to the point where Dafnis could have said, listen, you know what? It's not working. After a few months, it's not going where I want to go. But I think he saw something, and he stayed with it. He was patient enough to wait, because it was long distance over months and talks and things. But I think what Larry brings sometimes is something that's invisible. It's something you cannot put even a name to it, not because he's a genius, just because he is older, patient, and he waits. He doesn't talk all the time. He lets Dafnis talk, he lets the other guy talk, and the other guy talk, and then when everybody's talked, he says, yeah, that's good. Yeah, what if we just, can we try that? And then sometimes it's not even a direct place to go, but it takes you away from the thing you were doing, and then you arrive at this other thing. And again, it's something about music, and it's something about having worked with people, the people that he's worked with. Well, you think he tells Herbie Hancock what to do? I don't think so. I know Herbie a little bit. Herbie's Herbie. But it's posing a question. But Herbie's an open mind. So if you say, Herbie, what if we didn't have bass on this intro? What if... And then by not hearing the bass on the intro, Herbie will play different, because all of a sudden the space is not being occupied. So in a way, Larry is an architect, okay, we can put a window here. What if we don't? What if there's just a solid wall and the other side is all window, as opposed to putting okay, everybody puts the two windows here. So
Right.
these things are interesting because they're not explicit. They're implied, they're quiet. It's all invisible work, I call it. Sometimes he comes in with an artist, he's working and he plays me something, the original thing, and then I hear the thing at the end and I go, come on, what how? And he says, we just took stuff away. Instead of putting more, we just removed. And so that's the job of a great editor, I think, and a great somebody who also doesn't have to talk about it. He doesn't come home and show me look what I've done. It's like, look what she got to. Look what he did at the end. So he's proud of the artist who's able to arrive at something that we didn't even know existed. Yes, Dafnis wrote all this music, but none of us had any idea that it was going to sound the way it did at the end. Because it was exactly what Dafnis said. It was the combination of all. It was the total was the sum of all these things that all of us brought. Equally also, this is what's beautiful, is that Dafnis made space for everybody. He's like, okay, squeeze here so this other person can walk through. And squeeze here. And so everybody could shine a little bit. And Martin sounds divine on the record. Peter sounds it's exquisite to hear him jump. And he's so excited, like a child, going from this thing, and now I play percussion here, now I play this, now it's soprano, put the flute in there. You could give the guy 3,000 instruments, he would play each one of them, and well. And he's just the happiest. So as a singer, as somebody who's a leader, to make a musician happy, for me, it's the greatest joy I have. When I walk out the stage and the cats are laughing because they gave something of themselves, because they explored, because they got lost and somebody rescued them. Oh my God, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. So Larry is this guy who I sometimes go to recordings with him. He doesn't say one thing. And you're like, man, and you got the money to do nothing? And it's like, you have no idea what I had to do. I had to bite my tongue and not say, because sometimes it takes people 3-4 takes to get to the thing that they have to get to.
Yeah.
And what are you going to just tell them what to do? No, it's more important sometimes that the musician, him or herself, gets there alone than you telling them in a dictator way, like, okay, in a dictatorial way, like a didactic way. Do this, try it. What if? And what if I just don't? I'm trying this as a teacher. It's very hard for me because, as you can see, I love to talk. So I have to sometimes I just go to lesson and I write on a little post-it, don't speak. I put it on the piano and I'm just sitting there like...
Before I let you both go, what's happening with the project? Do you have festivals, tours lined up for this coming year?
Well, we're looking forward to that. At this moment, we're trying to contact as many people as possible, including a booking agent, which I currently don't have one. That has been a hassle to get as well. Everybody seems to be busy, and I'm kind of floating in the sky right now with not being having that kind of leadership. I have Eric Oberstein, who's my great friend and producer of this album as well, and he's helping me out, and without him I wouldn't be able to do any of this. I wouldn't be able to do probably in the last 10 years everything that I've done in the last 6 or 7 years. I have done it because of him. I'm not to bring any bad vibes or anything, but I was ready to retire 6 years ago. And he kind of rescued me from that thought and really put me back in, and just having a partner like him, it really brings me hope and inspire me. So we're working hard to see how we can bring this project live, and the beautiful thing about it is all the music we did it live, so it's not like we didn't do that many overdubs and things like that. So basically everything that is on the record is as we played it live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing. Everybody knows what to do, and everybody kept their charts.
We're ready. We're ready to go on the road.
Yeah, we're ready to jump in as soon as we start getting some. Obviously, I would love to do it, and I think we are all on the same boat to make this happen, from the music standpoint, but also from the human aspect of it. There's nothing better than just touring and being surrounded people alike, and that you feel an empathy.
I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet, but I have to say, I believe this record is going to have a long life. And I've been in projects where sometimes it's like a start where you go, oh, where are we going with this? But it goes and it keeps going. And I think people are going to hear this music. We're talking to you today, David. We've been talking to some people, doing interviews, and the music is going to arrive at people, and it's going to create interest, generate interest. I also think that it's, we're coming out of COVID, but still in COVID, right? So things are, they're still not completely, you're not everybody in cars driving. Some people are kind of taking rides with others, there's some boats and planes, and, we're all going to get there. But I think I'm very hopeful that this music is going to touch people. Just from my own musical world, people are coming back to me, and just because I've been posting things and sharing, and people have been saying, man, oh my God, it's incredible. What a great thing. And I think it's going to get to the right ears, and people are going to invite us, and it may not be immediate, but it's going to be next year and the following year.
Yeah, we're looking forward to do the tours, and, to do it right in the right places at the right time, and that we feel, right, and we feel good with it as well. So we're kind of cooking those possibilities now, and hopefully we start doing some by next year or so.
All right. Well, I wish you both the best with it. Sounds great. Congratulations. And I thank you for your time. Great talking to you both.
Thank you, David. It's been wonderful. And Dafnis, un beijo.
Thank you. Un beso para ti.
Thank
Abrazo
you.
grande.
Obrigada, querido.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Van Doren Reeds and Mouthpieces. Be sure and check out the Van Doren Advisory Studio in New York City for all your sound sculpting needs. Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Arlen's Good Beer in Bowling Green, Ohio. Sound by Marco Mendoza. The theme music is No FOMO, Mofo by yours truly. Produced by David Bixler. Be sure and subscribe to Liner Notes wherever you find your podcasts. If you like what you hear, I ask that you consider supporting Liner Notes financially. You can do this by going to the Liner Notes tab at davidbixler.com. Thank you for your consideration.